everyone. Thank you so much for joining me again for our final week of our devotional series, which is called Overload Your Faith. It has been a great 3 to 4 weeks here, just learning how to build our faith, hearing from you guys, hearing different stories and testimonies of how this series has blessed you. And we want to continue on with that. So if you haven't got to check out part 1 and part 2 of the series, be sure to check it out on my Instagram page. Or also you can go to my website at pb4a.org to get those series. So we want to continue on with our faith fact again for this week. And if you haven't heard me talk about faith facts, essentially it is the result of you trusting God for big things and really just kind of standing firm in your faith. And the faith fact for this week is that overloading your faith makes your faith stronger. And so we wanted to talk about that, and we're going to look at the book of Mark, and we're going to look at chapter 5. Now there's a lot of verses here, so I'm not going to read through them all just for the sake of time, but we're looking at verses 21 through 39. So definitely on your own time, in your devotional time, go ahead and read and dig through these scriptures so that you can get the full picture. But essentially what happens here in this story is that there's a synagogue leader named Jairus, and his daughter is at home and his daughter is dying. And so he decides that he's going to go find Jesus and ask Jesus to come to his house so that he can lay hands on his daughter so that she can be made well. And so once he finds Jesus, he falls down to his feet and he asks him, he begs him, he pleads with him, please, come to my house to heal my daughter. And I can imagine at this point that Jairus was probably really hopeless at this point. He had probably tried many doctors, probably tried many remedies, and nothing was working. So at this point, he steps out on his faith, and he knew that if he could just find Jesus, that he is the one that could heal his daughter. He is the one that could give him the miracle that he was looking for, okay? And as we're going into the scripture, I want you to have one question in mind as we're reading, and that question is, what do you do when your faith comes up against adversity, okay? So just think about that as we continue on. So at this point, Jairus has found Jesus. He's asked him to come lay hands, and Jesus says, yes, great. I can imagine a weight being lifted off of his shoulders, him, kind of exhaling, taking a deep breath. Okay, Jesus is going to come. All things are going to be made well. So as they are going back to Jairus's place so that Jesus can heal his daughter, Jesus' attention gets drawn to someone else, and you will read that there is the woman with the issue of blood. And now she desperately needs to be healed, and she had extended her faith to the point where she knew that if she could just touch Jesus's clothing, that she would be made well. And that's exactly what she did. And because of her great faith and because of her disposition, knowing that only Jesus could heal her that way, he noticed. And so he turns around, he's asking his disciples, who touched me? And his disciples respond, you see all these people around you, it could have been anyone that touched you. But Jesus knew that there was something specific about what had just happened. But that's not what I want to focus on. I want to focus on that while all this is going on with the commotion and her touching the hem of his garment, that the synagogue leaders come and they find Jairus and they say, Jairus, your daughter is dead. So don't even bother asking Jesus to come to your house to heal her. Now, this is the critical moment in Jairus' faith, because at this point, he had found Jesus. Jesus had agreed to come lay hands. And because of everything that was going on, his daughter had died in the process. And so Jairus could have said, you know what? Never mind. She's dead. There's nothing that you can do. He could have blamed Jesus. He could have blamed everything that was going around. But instead, he decides to still allow Jesus to come to his house. And just like the synagogue leaders came and they told him, don't worry about it, there's nothing that he can do, the same thing happens with us in our faith. A lot of times we'll be in a current situation or we'll be faced with something, and people will come around and they will say, oh, don't bother with it, don't worry about it, nothing's going to change, you'll never be able to do that, your financial situation is never going to change, and different things like that. So we have to decide whether we're going to continue on in our faith, if we're going to overload our faith in the face of adversity when things look absolutely bleak. So what Jairus did, he still allowed Jesus to come to his house. And when they got there, everyone's crying, everyone's wailing, they're all upset, and they're worried about what was going to happen. So Jesus responds to them, don't be afraid, but only believe. And this is exactly the disposition that we need to have when we look at our current situation. You need to look at it from the eyes of having faith, of believing God for big, and just knowing that no matter what it looks like, that Jesus can still do a miracle. And as a result, what happened to Jairus? What happened to his daughter? She was made well. His faith was increased. His faith was made stronger because instead of allowing what was happening, what the situation looked like in front of him, he decided to believe. And I want you guys to keep that in mind and realize that even when we step out on faith, and even sometimes if we don't necessarily believe, but we're still going through the motions, we're still continuing on, we're still in our word, we're still praying, despite what everything looks like around us, it's going to pay off. So I want you to remember that as you're moving forward, because every time God is able to do a miracle in your life, it makes our faith stronger. And that's what I wanted to leave you with on today, with the faith fact that overloading your faith, believing God for big, makes your faith stronger. So I want to continue on with you guys via social media, via website, to continue on this conversation as we go through the next couple of weeks, because I've been hearing some awesome testimonies about your faith walk and how God has really blessed you. So we want to continue on with that. Our devotional series will end for today, but we'll look forward to doing something like this in the future. But again, we still want to be engaged with you all. I thank you so much for joining me, and I appreciate it. Have a great and blessed day. Thank you.